Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to the next video in the Setting Up a Home Music Studio course. In this video, we're going to talk about backups. So backups, it seems on paper to be a strange thing to be talking about with setting up your home music studio. But to be honest with you, to me, as boring as it sounds, it is one of the most crucial things you are going to want in your home music studio as you go forward. So imagine you have been recording your song or your album. You've done lots and lots of tracks. You've spent hours and hours recording those instrumentation. You've got it all laid out. It's sounding great. You've got the perfect takes. Things are going along nicely, and suddenly you come in one day, turn your computer on, and boom, nothing. It's dead. Hard drive's crashed, all your data's gone, everything you recorded wiped off, never to be seen again. And now you have to face the reality that you have to record all that work that you've done all over again. Now, if you're like me, sometimes some of those parts you record are improvised. They're ad-libbed on the spot during the recording sessions. They may be something that you just can't recreate perfectly the way you had it, and you've got to go and do new takes and try again, and you might get something that's still good, but it may not be as good as it was. So trust me when I say backups are crucial, because if you ever face that point where you've lost everything, you are going to absolutely hate everything about this, and you are really going to struggle to get back up on that horse and start that recording process again. It may be the point where you just give up and say, that's it, I'm done, there's no point. And we don't want that to happen, all right? Because that is just not right, okay? We want to enjoy this process, we want it to be fun. And the reality is, these things die, okay? You can't say, oh, I spent so much on a hard drive and a computer, there's no way anything's gonna go wrong, because that is just not right. It is IT equipment, it dies all the time. Trust me, I've had hard drives here die, I've had lots of stuff die. I've been lucky enough that I have a very strict backup regime that backs up to multiple locations so that if anything ever happens, I can get it back. But here's the thing, the reality of backups, it's like virus protection, okay? Nobody wants to pay for it. Nobody wants to spend any money on it, because it's the sort of thing that only really worries you or interests you when you've had your data lost. Then you seriously think about backups, but it's too late at that point. So while it's the most boring thing to talk about, while it's the least thing you want to spend any money on, I highly recommend you do it straight away and set it up from day one so that you have that peace of mind that everything that you are recording and working on is backed up and is not going to be lost. So we have talked about hard drives and things like that for your computers in the past. And one thing that I haven't mentioned is what I would consider to be the first item in your backup regime. And that is an external USB hard drive. Doesn't have to be fast, doesn't have to be expensive. You can get them quite cheap. You can get big drives that are like 1 or 2 terabytes for under $100 that you just have plugged into your computer that backs up your data every night. And if it's not every night, it's every time you work on it or every week. Now you can use proper backup software to back up your computer. You know, there's lots of brands out there, just check out backups. If you're using an Apple Mac, you can just set up Time Machine, have that external drive in, it's backing up to Time Machine all the time. Now the other thing you can do is, if you don't care about backing up the actual computer, which I still recommend you do, because generally most people want to get their computer back on its feet as quick as possible, you may also have another drive or just a part on the drive where you just back up your music projects, all the stuff you're working on, just copy the files across. whatever it is. It could be a manual process where you just deliberately, every time you work on your music, copy it across to a second drive. So you have a backup drive, unplug that drive, go and put it in a drawer, whatever. So if you're the sort of person that likes to travel a lot or is away from home a bit and your house is vacant and you're at all worried about your house burning down or getting robbed and you're losing all of that data, because even though you're backing up to an external drive, if that drive is sitting there plugged into your computer at home, it's pretty useless if your house burns down, you've lost it. So generally, if I'm going away for a good period of time and I've backed up to that external drive, I'll unplug that external drive and I'll pack it in my bag, in my suitcase with me, and I'll take it with me. You know, I might put it in a special bag and wrap it in some bubble wrap or foam to protect the drive, whatever else. So I've got a backup then, and it's not in the house. So if anything happens to my house, I've got it with me. Now, another backup that I do, and I add this to it, so I'll do multiple backups, okay? So what I have is I have one to an external drive. I then also go to a cloud provider and I will back up my data up to the internet into the cloud. And the advantage to that is that unless they lose your data, you can't lose it. It doesn't matter if your house burns down, it doesn't matter if your hard drives are destroyed, it doesn't matter if your luggage is lost, it's in the cloud. So the theory is, as long as that business is in operation and they haven't destroyed your data, you can get it back. Now, why don't I just use the cloud? Why do I use both the cloud and an external drive? And I'll tell you the reason is because getting all your data back from the internet can be a very slow and tedious problem, okay? It takes a long time. We're talking about massive amounts of data. It could be terabytes that you're putting up in the cloud. And while I want that security to have it there in case I do need to get back to them, a lot of the failures that I have generally are going to be a hard drive failure. You know, I don't generally have my house burned down or be robbed or lose everything within my house. So generally I will have a failure of a piece of hardware on my computer, the hard drive that wipes the data. So the advantage of having the backup on the external drive is that I can get the data back a lot quicker than I can trying to pull it back down from the internet. But I still want that reassurance that if that hard drive's failed as well for some reason, or again, like I said, you've lost the lot in a fire, I can take that extra time and that long, tedious process to get it back from the internet if need be. So that's why I like to have that extra level and also keep the local backup at home that's easily restored back very quickly. Now, as I said, there's multiple versions of backups. You can back up your OS, so like on an Apple Mac, as I said, Time Machine. I use for PC, I use a Cronus backup software to back up my main part of my computer, so my Windows operating system, so that if I ever have a major crash on my computer, I can restore the entire computer back. But I also back up my music project files and can also copy them across to another drive as well as that. So there's also your project files and other miscellaneous files. You know, you may have sound samples and things like that you want to take a backup of, or the software itself, put it on another drive as a backup so you don't lose that software. That's not normally as common a problem these days because you can usually download the software again from the manufacturer, but you know, the old days you used to not be able to get the internet, so it used to be on a drive or a CD or a floppy disk, even if you want to go back even further. So having backups of those was almost essential, because if you ever lost or that got destroyed, you couldn't get the software. Now, the other thing I like to do, which is not necessarily a backup itself, but it's more like what I call archiving. You know, over time, as you're doing things, especially if you do a business side of things and you're working for clients, you're going to work on a lot of songs. Now, once you've finished those songs, you know, they could be finished, you know, a year ago. You're not going to be working on them again, most likely, and you're not going to be actively getting them off your computer or working on them. So sometimes I like to put them onto another external drive that's stored in the cupboard, and I basically archive it off my computer so that my computer stays clean. It's not full of thousands and thousands of projects, and I can keep my hard drives a bit smaller in my computer and not fill them up all every 5 minutes by archiving songs off that I'm done and dusted. They're finished. I still want to keep a copy of them in case there's a reason to come back to them, but they're not actively on my computer at the time. So that's sort of the example of what I do on my computer, but obviously I've got probably a greater need than maybe what you do. But again, the need still is there. You still don't want to lose your data. You still don't want to destroy all that time and effort you've put into your music. So to me, it's essential, and I recommend you do some form of backup. Even if you don't want to go to all the links that I do, at least have one form of backup is at a minimum. So if you have any questions about this approach or how to do it, or questions about recommendations for certain things, ask them in the comments. I'm sure people have used certain software, and I have as well, so we can bounce ideas off to get the right for you. So ask the questions and I'd be happy to help. Go and do some research online, check out what you want to get, hard drive, a cloud-based solution, that sort of thing. Check out what you want, think about it, and go and fill out the worksheet in the PDF ready to go so that you've got that locked down. And again, I can only stress so much that I think it is an essential part. You're going to hate doing this, you're going to find it boring, and you're not going to want to spend money on it. But the reality is you should, and it's going to save your sanity if something goes wrong in the future. Trust me, it will destroy you if you lose everything. So please really take this subject seriously, even though temptation will be not to. So while you're doing that, I will catch you in the next video.